Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Anker Christensen, the Climate Envoy of Denmark. Welcome to this webinar on the Climate Investment Platform. The title is Climate Investment Platform Facilitating Energy Transition for Green Recovery Through Emerging Models of Climate Finance. It's a webinar in a series of webinars organized by the missions of Denmark and Ethiopia to the United Nations as a follow-up to the energy transition track and work done last year at the UN Secretary General's Climate Action Summit. Today we will hear interventions from Denmark and Ethiopia, and then we'll have a moderated panel discussion with interventions from Sudan, Comoros, and Sao Tome and Principe. And then a final roundup with an intervention by UNDP and the UN system. Climate finance is the real theme for this webinar, and it is a major challenge. It is hindering progress on climate, and countries are facing difficulties to access the climate finance solutions they need to reach their ambitious clean energy goals, even though clean energy technologies and capital are available. This means the transition to clean energy is not happening at the scale and pace needed to significantly contribute to global climate change mitigation efforts. There is no time to lose. We only have a few years to address the climate crisis before it's too late. No country, institution, or organization can address the climate challenge alone. That's why last year, at the Climate Summit, UNDP, IRENA, Sustainable Energy for All, and the GCF joined efforts to tackle climate finance challenge and created this climate investment platform, which we are discussing today, also called the CIP. The CIP is a partnership building new connections and collaborations to accelerate and deliver on-the-ground clean energy benefits. In a way, it's trying to bridge what some consider a market failure in bringing capital to projects in countries that are in most need. Our goal is to make the CIP bigger than the sum of its parts and to scale solutions that are proven to work. It is first and foremost a multi-stakeholder initiative, and we are happy that so many of you can join us today. I have the pleasure to announce that Denmark is financially supporting this initiative for the startup phase. We hope other countries will also support this important effort. The CIP has been designed to support both the private and public sector in an integrated approach and to scale up commercial capital. Countries play a critical role in mobilizing finance by setting targets and creating enabling policies. And the private sector does too by developing and financing projects, while donors provide critical support to build capacity, provide guidance, and help de-risk. The CIP recognizes the chain of steps and works across 4 tracks to address each one. CIP is working with a number of governments, including the 3 represented in the panel, that is Sudan, Sao Tome and Principe, and the Comoros, where CIP support is empowering local actors through policy work to enable large-scale solar power investments, introducing new innovative private sector business model for last mile electrification, channeling funding for geothermal exploration, translating ambitious NDCs into action, and using its network to look for potential investors. So we will see how CIP is concretely working on the ground by hearing interventions from the 3 gentlemen, the 3 excellencies in the panel. But first, we will have a short intervention from the Danish Minister of Development Cooperation, Mr. Rasmus Prehn. Can we please see the video?
His Excellency Dr. Celeste Bekele, Excellencies, Ministers, UN partners, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to give these opening remarks. The challenge ahead of us is frightening. The COVID-19 crisis has put important development progress at risk. The world is not on track to meet the Paris target of limiting global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees. we are not on track to meet the SDGs, and the crisis has not made these tasks easier. But a time of crisis is also an opportunity, a chance to work towards a future that is more fair, equal and green, to get it right from the beginning, to build back better and greener. We need to use this opportunity to accelerate our efforts in combating climate change. For that, we need bold actions from both countries and investors. Actions that speed up the energy transition towards low carbon economies. The necessary investments are well over $1 trillion per year until 2050. Private sector capital will be critical in meeting this. That is why Denmark is actively supporting the climate investment platform. It's early days, but we find that the platform has great potential to assist both developing countries and private sector. By matching needs with private sector capital, this matchmaking is crucial to overcome the current investment gap. I'm hopeful that the platform can fill an important role in climate finance in the coming years, that it can help bring the much needed investments in energy, water and other crucial areas. I strongly ask other countries and colleagues to join the work. In November this year, Denmark will host a climate investment summit. The key outcome will be to mobilize further private sector investments into climate projects. We need all hands on deck if we want to be serious about our Paris commitments. I wish you a great webinar, and I hope you have a fruitful discussion on how this platform can advance clean energy agendas. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Danish Minister for Development Cooperation, Rasmus Prehn, who highlighted the matchmaking capacity of the climate investment platform, the focus on energy and water, amongst others, and the climate investment summit that Denmark will be hosting later this year. We do expect the Ethiopian Minister of Water, Dr. Seleshe Bekele, His Excellency, to join us in a moment, but I think we will continue with our program and then give him the floor when he does join us. And it is thus with great pleasure that I will ask the Professor Rashid Meki Hassan, the Secretary General of the Higher Council for Environment and Natural Resources of Sudan and a distinguished scholar and friend, to make his first remarks on Sudan's climate and energy context, the needs and priorities. You have the floor, Professor Rashid. Professor, we can't hear you. You need to unmute, I think.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Thomas, for the kind introduction. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this platform. It's a very important platform, and I'm very grateful for the government of Denmark and UNDP for providing this opportunity. This is definitely a very important and big challenge for Sudan. Climate, things with climate for Sudan don't really look very good. Sudan is, the trends are indicating that Sudan is getting drier. Observed a decline, decline in rainfall, precipitation rates, significant. Also, change in increase in temperature is also getting hotter. There are trends in the desert encroachment. The desert belt has moved southwards significantly to more than 250 kilometers. bringing in serious water stresses with impacts on cropping and farming, causing 20% of the cultivated area to only to be harvested, very low cropping intensity, and this is very serious for us, for Sudan, a country that is already vulnerable climatically, being an arid and semi-arid, largely already hot and dry. One major vulnerability is really in the agriculture sector, where the bulk of it, probably about more than 80%, under rain-fed dryland agriculture. So it depends on rain. Rain comes, we are happy. Doesn't come, we are in trouble. And low technology in general in the agriculture sector. So there are big vulnerabilities with climate, and future climate doesn't look favorable for Sudan. And this is affecting a very large percentage of population. We're talking about like 70% of the population in vulnerable systems and vulnerable communities. Biggest one is the vulnerabilities agriculture, as I mentioned, where the livelihoods of the largest proportions of the population is dependent. Big risks of crop failures, livestock fatalities and deaths, and these are leading to deepening the poverty, the already bad situation with the economic and social and the livelihoods of the people. There are important energy implications for this. Improving the resilience and increasing the adaptability and adaptive capacity of Sudan, particularly in these vulnerable areas, will need more use of more energy, and a number of other issues. For instance, it has the recent pandemic, COVID pandemic, has also exposed inequality, not really in economic terms, but in terms of access to digital infrastructure. So right now, like what we are doing now, quite a bit of the whole world is doing business online, teaching and learning online and everything. So it's becoming really a big disadvantage to be left behind in terms of access of digital infrastructure. And so all this needs energy. The very high reliance on dryland farming, irrigation is one important adaptation strategy that needs to be expanded, area under irrigated cultivation, and that needs energy. But the situation with energy is a little bit also challenging in Sudan. In areas where we speak of as vulnerable areas, like rural areas, remote areas, access to electrification is very low. There is, in general, very heavy reliance on fossil fuels in Sudan. Not only in grid-connected generation networks, but also off-grid. People are still rely on fossil fuels for power in small homes, schools, clinics, and for irrigation and so forth. Despite the fact that Sudan is an oil-producing country, the country has been going through experiences of big fuel shortages, and have become a regular fact. And especially after the independence of South Sudan, Sudan has become more dependent on imports of fossil fuels, and because of what made this situation difficult is the fact that Sudan is facing acute shortage of foreign exchange, and to really sustain a regular supply of highly subsidized fossil fuels, petrol, diesel, and other cooking gas and things like. So it's become very difficult for Sudan with its crisis with foreign exchange, to maintain this highly subsidized on fuels. And that's currently stands at about 11% of the GDP, which is very significant. And with implications on heavy burden and on the internal balance and the fiscus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid. Sorry for cutting you a bit short, but maybe you could make your last remark in this round, and you'll get a chance to come back in a second when we've heard the other panelists.
Okay, so it's clear that it has become inevitable. It's obvious that Sudan will have to get serious about switching to non-fossil options, alternatives, and particularly renewable energy. Luckily, Sudan is very rich in renewable energy sources. We might have an opportunity to speak about that later. And that is the orientation now in Sudan in terms of the policy, enabling policy environment, and strategically thinking in that direction.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Professor, and for outlining all the challenges that Sudan is facing. Really a daunting agenda in front of you. Let's now turn to His Excellency, Mr. Houmet Nsaidi, Minister of Economy, Investment and Energy of the Comoros. So I hope you are with us. I could urge you to turn on your camera and your microphone if you are there, and to spend the next few minutes sort of setting the stage for Comoros climate and energy context, needs and priorities. And you will also get a second round to be more specific. Please, if I could ask you to turn on camera and microphone. Maybe we're facing. Please, go ahead.
We have just a little problem with camera, but the sound we listen as.
We hear you loud and clear. So please make your intervention, and let's see if the camera comes on.
So good afternoon to all. As you know, the Union of Comoros, like other countries, and notably the seat, submitted its determined contribution at the national level at the COP21 in Paris. This was a real breakthrough in the climate negotiation because even if the provision of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change relating to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions are not entirely binding, the NDCs constitute an effective barometer to measure progress at the global level to control the global rise in temperatures. This is eminently important for a country such as Comoros, which is highly exposed to climate hazards. However, the challenge can be mitigated, and in that, my country has an abundance of renewable energy potential that allows it to contribute to the global effort to reduce GHG emissions, in addition to the efforts it must make to adapt to climate change and the regulation. Thus, within the framework of the NDCs submitted, Comoros aims to reach a mitigation target of 84% of GHG emission by 2030, and geothermal energy is for us a considerable asset to reach this goal. The achievement of the geothermal development program is part of the transition strategy and energy mix of the country with solar, hydroelectric, tidal turbine power, and others such as small-scale wind. The country is currently in the process of updating its industries in order to better take into account all sectors and establish a decarbonization policy capable of positioning it as a model at the global level. The revised NDC will enable us to develop, to implement, to meet our obligation and support our ambition. These sectors are mainly energy, agriculture, land, sea and road transport, waste and land use, land use change, and forestry. The greening of the economy of Comoro has already been a top priority and stated in our Plan Comoro Emergent, which is the vision for 2030 and the interim development plan 20 to 2024. We are blessed with potential of geothermal energy is kept for the development of the country. These potential sources have been confirmed by leaders in the field with King James and the government of New Zealand. We have been dependent on a lot of heavy fuel. So the switch to a pass-through, not intermittent, cheaper energy is cared for the country. You can therefore see that Comoro is developing in a perspective to reach its NDCs and thus contribute to the global effort to reduce GHG emission. It's now up to the B and multilateral partners to join the government's effort so that together we can implement our NDCs and develop the ambitious and innovative projects that make up PCA 2030. But let me continue to say that, as I said before, geothermal energy will be at the height of our energy mix because it will cover more than 60% of demand with a stable baseload electricity production. This will allow us to significantly reduce the share of diesel power plant to 15 megawatts in the projected production mix of 60 megawatts in 2033, while currently diesel power plants account for more than 60% of the production. Geothermal energy will therefore be combined with solar energy to ensure the decarbonization of the electricity production. This anchoring of our strategy in clean energy will also enable us to develop clean industry in terms of energy consumption. This being the case, the achievement of the Geothermal Development Program requires substantial but feasible funding. Indeed, we are currently in the second phase of the program, following the success of the first exploratory phase of the surface geoscientific studies. This phase requires an overall funding of 53 million, and we have been able to mobilize resources from the African Geothermal Risk Mitigation Facilities, $11 million US, as well as from UNDP and TF, $6 million. At the donor conference held in Paris in December 2019, the African Development Bank also showed interest in a financial contribution of $14 million US. With the support of the Climate Investment Platform, we are currently engaging further discussion with the African Development Bank. So we still have a funding gap of about $23 million US for the exploration phase without the construction of the PPP. This financing will allow us to proceed with the test and exploratory drilling phase to confirm the use of the resources and thus move on the third phase of construction of a first 10 megawatt geothermal power plant. We will then be able to invest in increment of 10 megawatt to reach a total of 40 megawatt as planned in our strategy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, and thank you for the elaborate description of your situation and of the challenges you're facing. I salute you for your leadership in terms of aiming high in your energy transition. We need leadership from all over the world, and I think countries such as yours taking that leadership also sets an example for others to follow. So congratulations on aiming high. We will now turn to His Excellency Mr. Osvaldo Abreu, the Minister of Infrastructure, Public Works, Natural Resources and Environment from Sao Tome and Principe, who also will give an introduction to Sao Tome and Principe's climate and energy context, need and priorities. Sir, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Thomas, and greeting to Dr. Ramos Pret, the Minister from Denmark, Professor Rashid from Sudan, and Mr. Excellence Hamed Said from Comoros. Thanks for the invitation to the Transition Coalition from the governments of Denmark and Ethiopia and the Climate Investment Platform, CIP, co-founding partner UNDP, IRENA, Sustainable Energy for All, and the Green Climate Fund. Thanks all. As you know, Sao Tome and Principe is a very small island developed state located in the Gulf of Guinea with terrestrial area of 1,001 square kilometers, with a population about 210,000 inhabitants, of which over 60% are below of the poverty line and around 20% have no access to electricity services. The unemployment rate in 2019 was around 13%, and GDP growth is about 4%, which is not sufficient to meet SDP major development needs. Furthermore, over 90% of the state investment budget comes from foreign aid, and the debt rate is high as 70% of GDP. As you should also know, currently most of our energy comes from the burning of imported fossil fuels sources, and since the second half of 2018, our country faces several shortage in the electricity generation. About 50% of demand is fulfilled, leading the government to decree the state of emergency on energy by the end of 2018. On top of that, the pandemic impacted dramatically on the country's health system and heavily impacting our economy, creating huge constraints to the tourism industry as one of the main sources of income and employment to the most of vulnerable due to its natural characteristics as a small island developing nation, as well as a large ocean nation. Sao Tome and Principe is particularly vulnerable and already feel the adverse impacts of climate change. Therefore, we are in the middle of what we call the perfect storm at the crossroads of 4 emergencies happening at the same time, namely energy emergency, COVID emergency, social economical emergency, and climate change emergency. However, we would like to transform this perfect storm situation into a unique opportunity to fully establish in practice the vision of green and inclusive recovery, especially by attracting partners to support us in the journey of clean energy transition. We know our shortcomings, but no one can deny that Sao Tome and Principe has a strong political will to act on fighting climate change and towards sustainable development. Under the Paris Agreement, the country committed to reach 2030 with 47 of its energy coming from renewable sources, reaching negative emission to 400,000 ton CO2. Currently, we are committed to go further 50% in the same period. Sao Tome and Principe is receiving the support from Climate Promise Initiative, partnership between UNDP and IRENA, and from NDC partnership to establish a strong MRV system and to update our NDC this year. The transition to clean energy is one of the top priority for our government. The updating of the NDC will enhance stakeholder awareness and will build national capacity to coordinate climate and development action, supporting the post-pandemic economic recovery. The revised NDC will support the transformation of the clean energy and climate action into short, medium, and long-term investment plans aligned with sustainable development goals, especially and specifically targeting youth employment, human empowerment, financial flows enhancement, and private sector engagement. The country is also receiving the support from various multilateral donors, namely UNDP, European Investment Bank, World Bank, African Development Bank, and UNIDO, who are committed to accelerate the uptake of renewable on the ground. Hence, despite there is a long road to be tracked, we are confident that our country is partnering with the climate investment platform, have all the necessary conditions to attract and mobilize the correct partner to implement the energy transition and green recovery that the country decide to implement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. And I think we now have about 15 minutes or so for a discussion between the three of you. And also you, Minister, I want to salute Sao Principe and Tome for its leadership and its bold vision. I think small countries in the north and the south need to join hands in showing the big emitters what actions can be taken. My own country during the lockdown has passed a bill in Parliament setting our target for 70% emissions reductions by 2030. And we are now working on the plans and how to put that into motion, including totally decarbonizing Danish energy production mainly through wind. You can see a windmill behind me in my screen. And maybe the question to all three of you, I mean, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing in terms of meeting your ambitious NDC, and what opportunity exists for attracting investors to your projects? Maybe starting from the back, you, Minister Abro, Osvaldo, how does it look for you? Please.
Yeah, thank you again, Thomas, for the question. We believe that we should pay particular attention, to the green recovery opportunity because of this pandemic situation, and to try to recover our economy through the renewable energy and opportunity. The countries indeed need of support to develop ideas of bankable projects that we are receiving, and to maximize what we are doing to attract the foreign direct investments. So we work on a regulatory framework that will allow us to give more safety to the investor. And we approved already the most of this the framework regulatory paper, and some of them are about to be approved, and we believe that by the end of the year we will have everything ready to facilitate the investor. So this is what we are doing. We are committed to do, and this is what we can do. But of course, we face a lot of challenge and the difficulty in financial sector and capacity building sector as well, the training sector. So we are dealing with a new area, because our technician and the people are familiar with this sort of energy that we are dealing with decades ago. So the training and capacity building are very, very important for us, as well as the financial support. As you know, when this investor come to the country like Sao Tome with a lot of situation and the fragilized, so they need some security to their investment. They need to secure their investment. So we are trying to call for our supporter and our partner to come together to the idea of the guarantee bank, some guarantee of fund to give to the investor some more guarantee, so they can put their money in this area. So I believe that with the support of climate investment partner, we can identify the gaps and creating contextualized solution in particular manner with various local and regional and international institutions. And for example, with the UNDP and a long-lasting experience that you have in a lot of these areas, there's the seeds experience, the IRENA as well, Seed for All. So we are, calling you to come together with us and see what we are doing and how can we do it better and improve it. And essentially in these two areas, as I've mentioned, financial and the capacity.
Thank you so much, Oswaldo. It sounds as if the matchmaking philosophy of the platform is starting to work. That's very good. That's very good to hear. Can I turn to you, Minister Saidi from Comoros? You've heard what your colleague from Sao Tome said about the challenges they are facing and how they are trying to attract investors to reach out. What's your experience in the Comoros of tackling your challenges and bringing in investors, maybe with the UNDP IRENA partnership? Please, sir.
It's being very hard. That's why the climate investment platform comes with its partnership with UNDP, IRENA, Sustainable Energy for All, and Green Climate Fund. Each of these institutions has its added value and is supporting the Comoro to access innovative and non-traditional sources of financing, particularly for this phase of exploratory and test drilling. This is a risky phase in terms of investment, especially for the private sector. So only public funding or innovative climate financing benefiting from the financial de-risking instruments can help us complete the geothermal exploration financing. Comoro is thrilled to partner with the Climate Investment Platform, considering the unique position of the SIP with its four partners. We are confident that we'll be able to close the gap. Each institution is able to support the geothermal. UNDP has been instrumental in the initial support to mobilize and partner with the government of New Zealand, the JEF and African Union for the geothermal project. IRENA can support with the SEED Lighthouse Initiative, Global Geothermal Alliance, and support the geothermal program in their investment forum. Green Climate Fund can provide financing. Sustainable Energy for All, by its position, can advocate for the geothermal program. The SIP has its convening power of attracting other players at local, regional, and global level. Thanks to the SIP and the support of the government of Denmark and Ethiopia, Comoro is here today at the Energy Transition Coalition webinar and getting a great visibility on the international scene for the Geothermal Development Program. We are excited about this new partnership with the SIP to accompany us further and play a funding catalyst role for the geothermal development in the Comoros. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Kingdom of Denmark for its valuable contribution to the SIP and invite other partners to join the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Minister, and thank you for your kind words to Denmark. I will be sure to pass them on also to the ministers who I support work with, both Minister of Development Cooperation, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Climate and Energy. So it's my role as their chief advisor to help them understand the impact of also the instruments they put in place, and we really have invested a lot in the SIP, and it's very heartening to hear your assessment of it. It bodes well for the future as well that this matchmaking capacity is working, and the effort we put in also to have an instrument that would allow countries not to have to go to each of the institutions separately, but actually have a coordinated effort in the way you work with a multilateral development bank, the Green Climate Fund, IRENA, UNDP, that sounds as if it's coming together in a more holistic way. So far so good. Professor Rashid, could I turn to you with the same question as for Sudan? Your experience with tackling the challenges you outlined and working with the international community, the platform, your pitch to investors, and how you tackle these challenges. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. And for the sake of time, I will be very brief. Sudan has embarked now, in face of these challenges, on a very ambitious energy transition program focusing on solar, exploiting the rich solar resources, solar energy resources in the country. And on that, UNDP has led and has been a very important player in forming the Solar Transformation Committee, and which has a established national solar fund that brings together, the committee brings together the private sector, government, NGOs, communities, and partners from the international community. It's a very ambitious program, has big targets of increasing significantly the mix from renewable energy, particularly solar, and emphasis on off-grid solar projects. UNDP building on a number of interventions successfully tested in small, large, and medium areas, supporting solar pumping for irrigation and agriculture, solar units, micro solar units supporting some enterprises, as well as health services, clinics and hospitals. And this program is expanding, but the climate investment platform has really assisted Sudan by bringing, a very specialized, tailored, clean energy investment expertise to match the needs of the country. And the support from the climate investment platform has enabled us to add new elements to our solar transformation program, especially in terms of introducing private sector business for off-grid electricity. This will be a very key to attract investors and really scale up solar power. All these experiences in Sudan, and will serve the co-benefits of environmental benefits, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, and at the same time facilitating the agricultural transformation in areas that are very vulnerable. And so we are very grateful for the climate investment platform, and particularly with the leadership of collaboration with UNDP. And we look for potential investors and donors to make this comprehensive program a reality. We invite all the people here today to join these efforts with the climate investment platform to help Sudan through its energy transition. Now, the biggest challenge for Sudan that we must note that Sudan, given its current economic situation in this transition period after many years of economic mismanagement, is facing serious constraints in terms of Sudan will need assistance from the international community and donor agencies. It has a problem there. A big constraint is that Sudan is struggling to try to lift Sudan from the list of state-sponsored terrorism, and that is blocking seriously the Sudan's ability to access international assistance and foreign funding, foreign money. So we hope that all our international friends and partners, the CIP and others, Denmark as well, particularly leading this, we have high hopes that they will assist in easing this blockage and in removing Sudan from the list and opening access to international assistance, because Sudan, given its circumstances, will need big international assistance through its energy transition program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Rashid. And the situation of Sudan, as you outline, it is obviously a bigger topic than the one we're trying to tackle in this webinar. I know that is an issue that is also being discussed in other parts of my government, and I'm sure that is a concern we all share, how to help your country come back on its feet. But turning back to the question at hand, the question of how to finance and energy transition and raise the ambition in both your countries and wider globally by ensuring the flow of finance. I think this discussion until now has been quite rich in outlining the challenges and the way you are each approaching it. We've got about a minute maybe for each of you to maybe just address, as you look towards the next year, we have had to postpone the COP26 from this year to next year because of COVID. So we have a year where we really should work on raising ambition and together ensure that the NDCs are getting on track and having as much success as possible. What would be your biggest wish in terms of your NDC enhancement and work on that? 1 minute for each of you, starting maybe with you, Professor Rashid.
Well, I think the biggest effort that now is going into making this energy transformation, solar transformation initiative work very well, trying to mobilize support, resources, funding from private sector, government, and international assistance. That is going to be our mainstay, our focus, and a strategic direction that Sudan will be working, trying to make work.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Minister Saidi, 1 minute for you, the biggest challenge on achieving your NDC over the next year?
I think I will say the same thing as my brother from Sudan. We will do our best to mobilize financial resources for our main goal, which is to reach this geothermal energy, which is very, very important for us as a country, because it will meet all our needs in energy, and it's a very, very proper energy, and we will attain the NDCs as we took our promises through the Paris conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister Osvaldo, are you still with us? 1 minute from you on the next year and your biggest wish.
Yes, we are into the very complicated year 2020, very bad for everyone, and I first would like to thank you, Thomas, for this panel, and the government of Denmark and Ethiopia again for the question and for the opportunity. And we would like to reinforce our invitation for all partners to support us in the operationalization of our green recovery, supporting us to implement our new energy project strictly aligned with the sustainable development priority, including to preserve our rich biodiversity and natural resource. That is one of the main reasons that internationally our tourism sector have been recognized as a privileged spot on earth to visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Osvaldo. That's very clear messages from all three of you, solar, geothermal, and inviting to support Sao Tome in its NDC and biodiversity efforts. Before we turn to you, Srilata, and welcome to the panel, I just want to stress that this discussion really has underlined the nature of the climate finance challenge and the scale of ambition that many countries have to achieve the energy transition. And we've heard from each of our three ministers how they have very specific circumstances, challenges, opportunities, but also require a very customized approach. There's no one size fits all. The CIP founding partners with UNDP, IRENA, GCF, SE4All have joined forces in this attempt to provide this customized and targeted support. And we have a short intervention from their leaders in a brief video about the rationale for the CIP and how it addresses these priorities before we turn to you, Srilata. Let's see the video.
fossil fuels must be consigned to the past.
If we are to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and the climate-safe path, annual global renewable energy investment need to double.
Climate finance is key to turning this crisis into opportunity.
Those countries that seize this moment and invest in clean energy will benefit from increased GDP, better security of their energy provision, job creation, and improved agriculture, gender, and health outcomes.
We are here to help unlock climate finance and seize this once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Very clear messages from the four principles supporting this initiative. And with that, I want to turn to you, Srilata, if you are still with us, and invite you to give some thoughts and reflections on what you've heard. Please.
Thank you so much. Apologies for joining late, but really it's my pleasure to speak today at this timely and important event on behalf of the SIP partners. So Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, colleagues, thank you again for inviting me to this panel and inviting thoughts and actions and insights from the ground. So let me begin by thanking the panelists for that insightful discussion. I mean, ground truthing the needs and priorities that the countries are facing and illustrating how SIP has begun and began to intervene and convene and provide support where it's needed. I also want to thank Denmark and Ethiopia for their support since the inception of SIP and for organizing this webinar as part of the Energy Transition Series this year. And let me especially thank the government of Denmark for its generous support for the SIP's early phase of this journey to allow us to begin this in-country work, outreach, and partnerships, and to make this possible so that we can build on this work in the coming months and years. I hope that the discussion today has given us all a bit of the pause as well as inspiration, as our esteemed panelists have underscored the needs and the challenges, especially as were reiterated, related to technical gaps, capacity gaps, and resource gaps that the countries are facing, and to also reinforce the invitation that was made to invite other donors and partners to join us in being able to respond to this growing demand and requests in order to help SIP deliver the support needed for energy transition and green recovery for the developing countries. As you heard in the discussion so far, I mean, the aim for SIP is to be a convener, an inclusive partnership, a network that helps streamline and coordinate access to climate finance. And we aim to do that through learning by doing, to accelerate innovative, transformative models to direct and implement climate finance for investments on the ground. And in doing so, really being able to, in an innovative manner and a unique proposition of the platform in being able to cover the entire value chain of investment in green energy. And in particular, I wanted to highlight the underlying architecture that helps us as partners and stakeholders in delivering support on the energy transition and green recovery efforts. And these are 4 tracks that the platform is built on. The first one focuses on targets. As SIP is aimed at helping countries deliver on ambitious NDCs, this particular track focuses on providing assistance to governments in developing and submitting enhanced clean energy targets as part of the NDCs under the Paris Agreement. The second track focuses on what was also emphasized by various panelists on really setting out clear, transparent, long-term policy and regulatory environment that enables and crowds in commercial capital. And that's an important driver towards really mobilizing a whole of society approach and ensuring that we engage private sector. A third important element related to that is to promote financial de-risking, allowing and working with financial institutions to crowd in private capital and investment at the project level, at the transaction level. And finally, a track that again has been emphasized, which is around matchmaking, promoting a marketplace where bankable projects that seek investment can attract the right kind of investment, so connecting project sponsors with investors. I also wanted to say that the entire value chain of being able to promote investment in a coordinated manner requires complementarities, and that's what this particular platform is unique about, and that these tracks and the mandate is anchored in a very strategic complementary partnerships. IRENA, with its deep energy expertise, is promoting bankable projects, creating technically viable and bankable projects to catalyze energy transactions. SE for All, including with its support now with the government of UK on its COP26 energy transition campaign, is combining its advocacy, upstream matchmaking, connecting of public-private sector actors together with its country-level assistance, and then GCF as a dedicated and the world's largest dedicated fund for climate finance to support developing countries, is contributing to SIP through its support on readiness and project preparation to ensure a robust bankable pipeline. And finally, UNDP, with our expertise and extensive network in country and support at the nexus of climate change, energy, and sustainable development, is convening governments, developing other development partners and private sector to really scale up climate investments, both policy and programmatic interventions on the ground. Again, today's conversation has showcased how critical this work is, action that is critical not just for the energy transition and recovery, but overall resilience of the people and economies of these vulnerable countries. And I just want to go back to a few of the remarks made by our esteemed panelists with Sudan, which has highlighted that already a vulnerable community and country to climate change is on top of that affected dramatically by the COVID pandemic and impacting health and economy. And we are proud to say that SIP is accompanying Sudan. It's in visionary and ambitious solar transformation program that Professor Rashid mentioned, and focusing on PV solar for health and agriculture sectors, as well as energy access for rural households. In Sao Tome and Principe, the Honorable Minister mentioned the perfect storm of emergencies, an intersection of emergencies, but at the same time, an opportunity in a way of moving towards green recovery and transition to green energy. And SIP is deploying the expertise and network to focus on the health, tourism, and education sectors, which are at the heart of the country's green recovery and transition to green energy. Comoros, the Honorable Minister mentioned the resources that are being mobilized for a large geothermal plant, a transformative investment for a country that is heavily burdened, and a SIDS country that's heavily dependent on and burdened by imported fossil fuels. And the SIP work is helping the country advance not just the energy access, but also its ambitious mitigation agenda. So these are just a few of the examples of how SIP can convene and direct and implement resources to assist our countries. In the coming months, we aim to accelerate our work, expanding in response to the growing demand from the countries, identifying additional partner countries, working with private sector actors, and to really accelerate green energy investments through project preparation and fundraising support. We also hope to expand the network of partners and find the areas where there's potential for this partnership to play an impactful and catalytic role in mobilizing climate finance. This partnership has been emphasized, is timely and it's urgent, has a vital role to play in advancing clean energy investments that will play an important role in the green recovery. So let me end by really inviting everyone to join us in this journey. Together through SIP, we can scale up innovative and transformative investments and support the critical efforts our countries, our partner countries are making in green recovery. And again, as Thomas, you mentioned, ensuring we're on track towards realizing the ambitions of the NDCs of each of our partner countries. So let me end there by, again, thanking each one of you and everyone for their commitment and their engagement, and we look forward to a continued partnership in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Srilata, for your very inspiring closing remarks and for the partnership and close collaboration with the UNDP, Mission of Denmark, and all the other partners. It is really the fight against climate change. It is really a war in slow motion, being fought from house to house, trench to trench, country to country, and we all have our share in that battle. Incidentally, today is the day when the European Commission announced its ambition for Europe to go to a 55% reduction target by 2030, and we hope that heads of state in Europe will put that into law in Europe. All of you could also help in pushing Europe to become more ambitious. That's something we have cut out for us this fall. Listening to all of the panelists makes me feel very humble and privileged in coming where I come from. And gentlemen, you really are tackling challenges and vulnerabilities that all of us can only marvel at your sustenance and the endeavor and hardship that you and your people are going through to achieve those targets. But we are with you. This is a partnership. We work jointly on trying to help you realize your potential and your plans. It is clear that in this coalition we have our work cut out for us, and I want to thank you all for participating, for being so engaged in the conversation. And I want to thank the CIP and Danish and Ethiopian colleagues for working on this webinar and putting it all together. So thank you all. Thanks to the members of the Energy Transition Coalition, to CIP, and let's make the green recovery a reality together. Thank you so much for being with us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.